Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Let's Talk Books. As always, I am Helen and I'm coming to you from Dundee in Scotland, and this is where I get the chance to sit down and talk books. So welcome back. So the plan for this video is that I will go over my October reading wrap up. October wasn't a great month for reading, I have to say, and we will look ahead to November into the books that I'm hoping to read, planning to read, thinking about reading, and we'll see where we go. So yeah, as I said, October wasn't a great reading month for me. October is one of my busiest, well, it is absolutely flat out my busiest month of the year in terms of my business. If you are new, I am an indie yarn dyer, so I create hand-dyed yarn. You can, well, elsewhere on my channel, you'll see all about that, I guess. So I create yarn advent calendars, and October is the month when they tend to kind of culminate in shipping and packing and all of that kind of thing. And it takes an incredible amount of work. It takes a lot of time, always more time than I think it does. And also in October, we had 2 weeks of school holidays here in Dundee, as well as the fact that I vended at Glasgow School of Yarn as well. So yeah, it was just a ridiculously busy month. I did quite a lot of late nights at the studio in order to kind of get through the Advents fast enough. And yeah, as a result, my reading was affected. I also had one book in particular, which amusingly won't come into my October wrap up because I actually finished it in November. So I won't be talking about it properly until December when I do my November wrap up. But there was one book in particular that took over my reading for a lot of October, and that was The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb, which was a chunk of a book. So yeah, that took over a lot. And it's kind of frustrating me that I didn't get it finished in October because it now looks like I read so little in October. But if that book was taken into account, the stats would have been a lot better. Anyway, let's just get into it, shall we? So in October, I finished a total of 4 books, which for me is very few. That was a total of 1,361 pages with an average page per book of about 340. I've also done for the first time an average star rating because I've never done that before and I thought that was quite interesting. So for the month of October, my average star rating was 4 stars for the books. So that was a good reading month in terms of I enjoyed the books I read, I guess. What other stats was I going to say? There was something else I suddenly thought of as I did that. A total of 4 books, total pages. Nope, it's gone. I've forgotten what the other thing I suddenly thought about was, but maybe I'll think about it next time. So yeah, as I said, oh no, that was it. How I read those books. I read 1 physical book, I listened to 2 audiobooks, and I read 1 Kindle book. That was the other thing I thought would be quite interesting to think in terms of stats. I will say, I had a few, that was the other thing I had in October. I had a few audiobook DNFs. So I feel like I listened to a lot of audiobook during October because I had it on quite a lot while I was packing Advents and while I was working at the studio and things like that. But I definitely had, I think I had 2 or 3 DNFs. I can't remember off the top of my head what they were, but it's not necessarily a reflection on the book. So I won't go into details about them anyway, because for me, I can be quite particular about the narrator. And if I'm not getting on with the narrator, then I will DNF an audiobook. But quite often I will pick it up physically and then find I really enjoy it. So yeah, I don't tend to talk about the audiobooks that I DNF because I probably haven't DNF'd them because the book was rubbish. I've probably DNF'd them because I just didn't get on with the narrator. So yeah. But there we go. So yeah, I feel like that reduced the number of books that I would have finished in October because if I hadn't had those DNFs, I may have got another couple of audiobooks finished. Yeah, possibly. So the first book I finished in October was We Used to Live Here by Marcus Cluer. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. This is what would you call it? It is definitely a horror. It is incredibly creepy. It really put me on edge in a couple of places, but also it is a page turner. Like, I couldn't put this down. I finished this in 2 days. I just could not put it down once I'd started. I absolutely loved it. A 5-star, absolutely gave it a 5-star rating. In this, we follow Eve. Her and her girlfriend Charlie have just bought a house which they are fixing up, and with the intention of kind of they're going to fix it up and sell it on and make money. And when they're kind of first there, one night Charlie hasn't come back yet. Eve is out. Eve is in the house, and she gets a knock on the door, and a family is at the door, and the husband turns around and says, "We used to live here. Could I come in and show my children around?" Now, Eve really doesn't want to do this, but she's very much a people pleaser. She feels she can't say no. So she lets them in, and then weird things start to happen, and she just can't seem to get rid of them. And then her girlfriend, who comes back but then disappears, and she can't get in contact with her, and just everything is starting to make her feel crazy. And yeah, there are some really creepy moments in this. It is really, really clever. There are some really fun little, I don't want to give too much away. There are some really fun little puzzles, I guess, in the book as well. If you've got, apparently, if you read it as an audiobook, you actually get another file that comes with the audiobook. Or a link to a file that comes with the audiobook, because there are some bits that you really kind of need to see visually, I think. I'm not 100% sure how true that is. But certainly I would recommend a physical book, or I guess you could probably read it on Kindle and you'd still have the same kind of little bits. But there were some really fun little kind of puzzles to solve as you went through, kind of. That's hard to describe really, but I really enjoyed that element of it as well. And yeah, incredibly creepy. It had some real, yeah, I don't even know. It was so creepy. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. It definitely leaves you thinking, what the hell happened? But it felt right for the book. And yeah, absolutely a 5-star read. I kind of want to dive straight back in and reread it. Because I feel like it's one where a reread would be really interesting once you've kind of know what happens, if you can say you know what happens. I'm not sure. But yeah, 5 stars, absolutely loved it. Then the other book I finished was, actually, where am I going to put it on the screen? Because I'm right in the middle at the moment. I'll lean this way slightly. We'll put it up there. The other book I read in October was The Haunting of Ashburn House by Darcy Coates. Now, I think, was it in September I read? Yes. In September, I read The Haunting of Blackwood House by Darcy Coates, and I was a little bit worried that they were going to be too similar. I've not read a lot from Darcy Coates, but so I wasn't sure. Like, she has a lot of books that are the haunting of a certain house. And I wasn't sure how similar the storylines were going to be, whether it was just going to be kind of a similar kind of hauntings, you know, I'm sure you see what I mean. But I was pleasantly surprised. It was completely different. It was a very different kind of story, very different environment. We follow Adrian, who has inherited a big house in the middle of nowhere. She has absolutely no money left to her name. She's been looking after her mother, who has now passed on, and then she suddenly inherits this house from an aunt, I believe, who she didn't know existed, basically. And it's kind of what she needs, because she's had to pay all these hospital bills for her mother. She has no money left to her name. She is still waiting on invoices to be paid for her job and stuff like this. So she ends up heading out to Ashburn House and living there. And Ashburn House is on the outskirts of a small town, one of those small towns where everybody knows everybody else. And she gets settled into the house, and she starts finding strange things carved around the house, strange sayings and strange kind of instructions and things like that as she starts going around the house. And it kind of goes from there, I guess. Again, it's another one where I'm trying not to tell you too much about it, because you don't want to I obviously don't want to spoil the plot line. But she meets some people from the town, she becomes friends with them, and then one of them goes missing, and in the process of kind of trying to find this person that's gone missing, weird things start to happen outside the house and around the house, and it's a really interesting story. I'm really not doing a good job of explaining it, I know that, because it's a really hard one to kind of tell you too much about. It's a really different type of haunting to The Haunting of Blackwood House. The Haunting of Blackwood House is, I guess I'd say it's a more traditional kind of ghost story, if that makes sense. This one is this one is different. It's still a haunting in the kind of way that there's dead things haunting, I guess, but it is very, very different, and I really enjoyed, whereas Blackwood House was very much a person isolated in a manor and that's where they were the whole time. I really enjoyed the addition of the town, because she could get to and from the town, she could talk to people in the town, she could learn things from people in the town kind of came to her, and things like that. So that was it was a slightly more expanded world, I guess. But yeah, really enjoyed it. What did I give it? I've given it a 3.5 stars, which feels a little bit low maybe because of how I've just talked about it, but I don't know, I really enjoyed it. So again, my star ratings, I've said this, for me a 3-star book is, it was a good book, I enjoyed it, I probably won't read it again, but I would recommend it to somebody. And then, so 3.5 stars is, yeah, it was all right. It wasn't quite up there. I probably won't read it again, but I would definitely read more of Darcy Coates. It was a great audiobook to listen to while I was getting on with work and stuff like that, basically. So yeah, I would recommend it. Then I read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. This is very much a small town romance. We're following Jeannie, who has inherited her aunt's cafe, which is the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. She's left behind her kind of high-flying corporate job, I guess, and moved to this small town to run this cafe. She wants a complete fresh start. She wants to be a different person. She doesn't want to be the highly strung, paranoid, anxious person that she was before. And in the process of doing this, she meets Logan, who is, he was kind of like, I don't know what the word I want is, but he's kind of, not written. He's kind of meant to be a grumpy farmer kind of thing, but I didn't think he was that grumpy, to be honest. I think he was just hurt previously and not willing to let people in, if that makes sense, but he didn't seem particularly grumpy. He was actually a really nice guy. Anyway, he meets Logan and they kind of get forced together to solve a mystery that's happening in her cafe, and they start to like each other and they keep bumping into each other, and it kind of grows from there, and their romance and their relationship grows from there. It's very much a small town romance. You've got a great supporting cast of characters. There's a lot of kind of found family kind of elements with it, as well as she meets kind of all the people and gets to know all the people in the town and things like that. It is a series. It's one of those, I had the term for this type of series and I've forgotten what it is now. It's one of those series where each book follows different people in the same place, basically. So yeah. Now this is, when I've had this, when I've seen other booktubers talking about it, or I've seen it online or anything like that, it has been kind of sold as a spicy romance. Now, I obviously have read quite a lot of spicy books that were much spicier than this, because I thought it was relatively mild in terms of spice levels, but maybe that's just me. Certainly, there wasn't a lot of spice until probably 2/3 of the way through the book. So yeah, I don't know. It's meant to be spicy, but I didn't find it that spicy. We'll see. Maybe I'm just a bit immune to spice levels. I guess it just depends on what you're used to reading, doesn't it, really? Yeah, that's that one. I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I definitely want to read more in the series, but it wasn't groundbreaking. And then the final book I read in October. I don't know why I keep looking down my notes for what month I'm talking about. The final book I read in October was The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn. Now this is a World War II kind of historical fiction book. It follows Mila, who is a Russian, well, she starts out as a Russian student, but she becomes a sniper during World War II. And it follows kind of her story of becoming a sniper and then eventually getting taken over to America as the Russian contingent are kind of going over to America to talk to President Roosevelt and try and get the Americans to help the Russians with the war. So while you're in Russia, you have a lot of kind of really frontline kind of battles and kind of stuff like that, with her being an active sniper and her life there. And then it changes quite a lot once she goes over to America. And yeah, that was really interesting. I found it really interesting to be reading kind of from the Russian perspective of World War II. I didn't really know a lot about kind of that aspect of things. I've read quite a lot of books set during World War II, which obviously follow kind of the British during World War II. I've also read a few which follow kind of the French perspective and things like that. But I've never really read anything that follows the Russian perspective in World War II, and I really, really enjoyed it. She is a mother. She got married very young and had a child very young, and she has to kind of leave her child with her family and go off to war, which she hadn't intended to. She'd learnt to become a marksman as a bit of a, I need to prove my ex-husband wrong. I need to prove him that I can bring up my boy properly. Kind of thing. And then because she's trained as a marksman in peace times, when war comes, she's called up to fulfill her role, basically. And yeah, I loved the character of Mila. I thought it was really interesting the way she was written. And yeah, I would thoroughly recommend this. I have read a couple of other Kate Quinn books. I've read The Rose Code, which follows women at Bletchley Park during World War II, so kind of code breakers and that kind of thing. And I've also read The Alice Network, which follows, I can't remember exactly, but I think it looks at like a female spies during World War II, possibly, if I've got that right. I can't quite remember. It was a while ago I read that one. But I've enjoyed all of them. And I gave this one 4.5 stars. Because yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. That's my October wrap up. They're the 4 books I read. As I said, I did read kind of 90% of The Mad Ship in October as well, but unfortunately I finished it in November, so it doesn't count towards my October wrap up, and we will talk about it next month. So, talking of next month, or this month, I guess, as it is November, let's go into my November TBR. Now, my November TBR is ridiculous at the moment. I have a ridiculous list of books. There are currently 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 books on the list. Now, I have no expectations that I am going to read all of these books this month, because it is already, I'm already late getting this video out. It is already the 13th of November. I have finished, I'm just going to have a look now. I have finished 3 books this month, but none of them were on that TBR. One of them was Mad Ship. So yeah, let's just see, shall we? My first book I don't even have because it is in my actual bag because I took it to the hairdressers this morning and read it while I was at the hairdressers. So I need to go and get that and then we will get on with it. Okay, so the first book that was actually on my TBR for this month, I am, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through it, something like that. And that is the Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. Now, I've been talking about this for, I definitely mentioned it in the last video. Did I mention it in the one before that? No, I don't think I did. So that's quite good. So it's not been that many months. This is a library book and I try and prioritise library books. When I get books out of the library, the idea is that they should really be the next thing that I read. And that has not happened with the 2 books that I currently have out of the library. But I am finally finally into this one. I won't talk too much about it because I'll obviously talk more about it in the wrap up when I do that next month. But this is sci-fi. We are following Jamie. Jamie is, so we're following Jamie. Jamie loses their job at the beginning of the pandemic and is suddenly offered another job working for the Kaiju Preservation Society, or the KPS as they're originally told. And they take this job, it pays really well, it's going to help their flatmates survive the pandemic and everything like that. So they take the job and they get whisked away to find they're taken to basically a parallel Earth where massive kaiju, these giant creatures, these giant monsters roam, and the Kaiju Preservation Society are there to study them, to learn about them, and to protect our world from them, because there have been occasions where they have crossed over, like Godzilla. And they're there to kind of make sure that everyone is safe from them, but also researching and learning about them and everything like that. And yeah, we follow Jamie as they become part of the Kaiju Preservation Society. And yeah, it's really, really fun. I'm really enjoying it. One of the things that, a sort of random little thing that I'm really enjoying is I have no idea what Jamie's gender is. Jamie is not gendered in this book at all, which is quite fun. I find myself reading Jamie as male, but I don't know if that's because they're written by a male author, or I don't really know. But like in my head, I do keep gendering them as male, but they're not necessarily. I just find it really interesting because there is a non-binary character in the book who is clearly referred to using they them pronouns throughout the book. Jamie isn't even referred to with pronouns in the book, so they are not gendered at all. And I find that really interesting. I'm finding it really interesting, and I'm quite enjoying that. I know it's a random little element, but I'm quite enjoying that. So yeah, that is that one. I will tell you more about it when I finish it and when I do the wrap up next month. Then my second library book, which again, I will show you this quickly because I definitely mentioned it last time, is The Haunting in the Arctic by C.J. Cook. I think I might have read out the book before, but we're two different timelines. So previously there was a woman who was attacked on a ship and unpleasant things happened to her, and then decades later the ship is found, it's deserted, there's one body left on board, everyone else has vanished, and yeah, somebody then is determined to find the ship's secrets in the future. So that is that one. I am definitely hoping to get to this one this month. I really want to. So Arthur is my eldest son. He is 10, nearly 11. He has tutoring. Once every 2 weeks, he has a tutoring session. He's dyslexic, and he's having a little bit of extra tutoring just to help with his literacy skills and things like that. But one of the really nice things about it is that where he has tutoring is an easy walking distance from the library. So when he goes to his tutoring, which was yesterday, I tend to pop over to the library. So I didn't this week. I sat in the car and read Kaiju Preservation Society because I didn't have any library books to return because I've not finished them yet. But my hope is that I will have both of these library books finished in 2 weeks' time when he next has tutoring, so that I can take them back to the library and maybe try and resist the temptation to get other books out. I should probably do that, but I probably won't. Maybe I'll try and only get one book out from the library. So that's my library books. Then we've got my Patreon book club that I run. We do a bi-monthly book club as part of my Patreon. I generally pick 6 books, and then everybody votes and we pick the 2 that get the highest votes. Typically, this month, there wasn't a clear second place. So one book came out in front. I forgot which one it was. And then 2 books were joint second. So we've gone for the 3. I don't know whether I'll read all 3. And also this is across November and December, but I would quite like to read them this month because I have plans for December, but we will talk about that next month. So the books that came up for my book club were A Tempest of Tea. which I haven't looked at any of these to give you like proper descriptions of what they're about. We will see. So A Tempest of Tea is, we follow Arthi, who is a criminal mastermind, apparently. She has a tea room which transforms into an illegal bloodhouse by night. So it is vampires and mystery and romance and all kinds of that stuff. It says it's a dark, action-packed and swoon-worthy. It's teeming with romance and revenge, led by an orphan girl willing to do what it takes to save her self-made kingdom. I think it's YA, I'm not 100% sure, but it sounds really, really fun, and yeah, I'm really hoping to get to this one this month. The next one from my book club is The Wolf Den by Elodie Harper. I didn't say who Tempest of Tea was by, did I? It is by Hafsa Faisal. There we go. Hafsa Faisal. The Wolf Den by Elodie Harper is the next book. I am currently listening to that on audiobook because it was available on Everand, which makes things nice and easy when one of my book club books is available on Everand. And that is historical fiction set in the brothels of Pompeii. And we follow Amara and her life in the brothels of Pompeii and her attempt to kind of find a way to make enough money to buy herself free, basically. So yeah, that's the next one. And then the final book on, I'm going to have to look this one up, I think, quickly while we're talking. The final book on my, for my book club, which I suspect is the one that I may not get to, we will see how we go, is A Letter to the Luminous Deep. I'm hoping it'll come up on Goodreads. No, I need to put more letters in for it to come up. A Letter to the Luminous Deep by Sylvie Catherall. And this one is it's a fantasy story. It's set underwater in the depths of the ocean. There is magical academia and a heartwarming pen pal romance, apparently. So yeah, that's all I kind of really know without reading the thing out. I could read the thing out, couldn't I? A beautiful discovery outside the window of her underwater home prompts the reclusive E to begin a correspondence with renowned scholar Henry Clell. The letters they share are filled with passion, at first for their mutual interests and then inevitably for each other. Together they uncover a mystery from the unknown depths, destined to transform the underwater world they both equally fear and love. But by no mere coincidence, a sea quake destroys E's home, and she and Henry vanish. A year later, E's sister Sophie and Henry's brother Virion are left to solve the mystery of their siblings' disappearance with the letters, sketches, and field notes left behind. As they uncover the wondrous love their siblings shared, Sophie and Virion learn the key to their disappearance and what it could mean for life as they know. I really want to read that now. I know, I need to get to that this month. This is the problem. I want to get to them all, but there's not enough time. There's not enough hours in the day. So yeah, that is the final one for my book club. We will see, we'll see. But do you know what? It will remain on my TBR list. And even if I don't get to it in the next couple of months, I will hopefully get to it sometime next year. So I then got some others. So 2 other books that I'd really like to get to in October. One of which, actually let's go 3 other books I'd really like to get to in October. One of which I've definitely shown you before, and that is still A Pirate's Life for Tea. I wanted to get to this one in October because I really want to read it while Can't Spell Treason Without Tea is still fresh in my head. This is a fantasy romance, but with not too much spice, by Rebecca Thorne. I would say, yeah, they are not spicy. The first one wasn't spicy at all. This one, what she's done, and I think I talked about this last time, what she's done is she has added a spicy scene, but it is separate. It is like a little separate bit that you can read, if I can find it. No, where is it? At the end of the books. So at the end of the book, there is a one-shot, as she's called it, which is a spicy one-shot scene, not suitable for underage readers. So yeah, but she hasn't put that into the main part of the book. So the main part of the book still remains kind of spice-free, if that makes sense. But yeah, I've talked about this one before. This is a continuation of our story with Chianthe and Raina as they hunt down things that they were trying to find in the first book. But it's a sequel, so I can't really tell you any more than that. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed the first one. Really, really, really want to get to this one. So that's that one. And then I'm looking at other things. The other one I'd quite like to get to this month is the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, which is the second in the Dream Harbour series, which is the series that was Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Because I really want to get to this one this month, because I really want to read The Christmas Tree Farm in December as part of my as part of my December plans. So yeah, that I really would like to get to. It's small town romance I actually don't know anything about it. I don't know who the characters are. I don't know the tropes. I know nothing actually about this one at all, apart from the fact that it's the second book in that series and I'd like to read it. So there we go. And then we've got 4 more books, so one of them, how am I doing this? I don't know what order I'm doing this in. We're going to start with this one here. So I signed up a while back to the Evernight subscription box, and I've just got my first month. I came off the wait list and I got my first month. When I say month, the Evernight subscription box is a subscription box from Illumicrate. It is a horror subscription box, and it is quarterly, and it is book only. So basically, once every 3 months, I will get a horror book, a special edition horror book, and yeah, that seemed the best for me. I couldn't do a book monthly. I wouldn't keep up with it. It would overwhelm me. But the idea of getting something quarterly was quite exciting. The only problem is I would quite like to try and read the book each quarter when it arrives. This one arrived in October. I didn't get to it in October. I don't really want to be reading it in December because it won't fit with my December plans. So I should really try and get to read it this month. Maybe early January, because the next one will be January. So maybe I could read it in early January as long as I kind of read it before the next one arrives. But anyway, this is the book. The book is An Academy of Liars by Alexis Henderson. And this is, I'll show you because it's a beautiful edition. So it is a beautiful edition. Got lovely, lovely cover. Says one of the Lennons in the mirror didn't strike its cheek. It didn't move at all, really, except to smile. It has got beautiful end pages. The cover is beautiful as well, actually. Let's take the dust jacket off. It's got a beautiful cover. I love that the doors are open on the back. And the end pages at the back are lovely as well. And then it has just got this beautiful spine. And then on the tops, we've just got kind of speckling. And then the bottom has got the kind of wavy, misty kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely stunning. It is, I don't know a lot about it. My only slight hesitation is that it was kind of billed as dark academia. And I think I've said before that I sometimes struggle with dark academia. It can sometimes be a bit too slow for me, a bit too much kind of explanation and kind of things like that. But we'll see how it goes. I'm just going to read you the blurb because I don't know a lot more to describe about it really. Lennon Carter's life is falling apart until she gets a mysterious phone call inviting her to sit the entrance exam for somewhere very few have ever heard of. Hidden in a secret pocket of Savannah, it's a place called Drayton College, and it's a school of magic. Lennon has been chosen because, like everyone else at the school, she is special. She possesses the innate gift of persuasion, the ability to wield her will like a weapon and to use it to control others, and in rare cases, matter itself. After passing the grueling exam, Lennon now needs to learn how to master this devastating power. While persuasion takes a heavy toll on her body and her mind, she is captivated by all that surrounds her. Her studies, the college's lush moss-draped campus, her brilliant classmates, but most of all by Dante, the charismatic advisor who both intimidates and intrigues her. However, as Lennon becomes more adept at using her uncanny abilities, she uncovers more about Drayton and its unsettling history, about Dante and his tragic and violent past, and the more she learns, the more disturbed she becomes by what she finds. For it seems that the ultimate test Lennon will face is to embrace absolute power without succumbing to corruption and darkness. and it's a test she's terrified she's going to fail. It sounds really, really good, and I am excited to read it. But as I said, I'm a little bit hesitant because of the kind of dark academia billing, which I know can sometimes not always go very well for me. But we will see. So yeah, I really would like to get to this one so that I am up to date with the Evernight subscription, if that makes sense. And then, as if that wasn't enough, I probably should just scrap these final three. As if that wasn't enough, I thought it would be fun to have a little play with my TBR cards. I have these TBR cards here. I picked them up at my local independent bookshop a while ago, and they're super fun. So they're pretty on the back, and they all just have little prompts on them. So for example, choose a book which has a picture on the spine, or choose a book whose title starts with a number. And then you peruse your bookshelves and you pick your book out. And I thought, before I really sat down and thought about my TBR, before I remembered that it was a new book club month for me, so I was going to have book club picks, before I remembered that I wanted to get to this book, before I remembered that I wanted to get to this book, before I remembered all of the other books, I thought it would be fun to use my TBR cards to pick myself 3 books for November. And I did that. I picked these 3 books. So yeah, we will see what happens, but I will share them with you anyway. So the first one that I picked up was The Taxidermist's Daughter by Kate Moss. I love Kate Moss books. I've read... That Labyrinth was the first one I read, and then I think I've read Sepulchre and a couple of others by her as well. I've currently got a few on my shelf that I really want to get to. One of the newer series is. And I pulled this one from Choose a Book Which is Pre-Loved. So this was a charity shop book. As you can see by the slightly damaged corners, this was one I picked up from the charity shop. So it seemed a good one to pick. I'm just going to read the back because I don't actually really know what it's about. Tom, my husband, has read this and he loved it. So he keeps trying to pester me into reading it, which often means I don't pick up the books he pesters me into reading because I'm terrible like that. Anyway, the clock strikes 12. Beneath the wind and the remorseless tolling of the bell, no one can hear the scream. 1912, a Sussex churchyard. Villagers gather on the night when the ghosts of those who will not survive the coming year are thought to walk. And in the shadows, a woman lies dead. As the floodwaters rise, Connie Gifford is marooned in a decaying house with her increasingly tormented father. He drinks to escape the past, but an accident has robbed her of her most significant childhood memories, until the disturbance at the churchyard awakens fragments of those vanished years. So I think it sounds like a kind of historical fiction mixed with a bit of kind of ghost story-esque kind of horror kind of thing. I'm not 100% sure. I've not actually looked up on Goodreads to kind of check it. Basically, I'm terrible, aren't I? I really should have looked things up in advance, but I didn't because it's been busy. So that's one of the ones that I picked up. The other one that ended up picked up was Kristin Hannah, The Winter Garden. This could have worked for it's got things stuck on the back of it. Oh, it's because the sticker is sticky on the back. Oh, well, we'll leave that on the back then. This was another charity shop pickup, but I picked this one up because of a TBR card that said, choose a book which has a season in the title. And this was the only book on my shelves that had a season in the title. I've read a number of Kristin Hannah books and loved them. I say a number, I think I may have read 2. I read Nightingale and The Women, both of which were 5 stars for me. So I am excited to get back into this one. This follows 2 sisters and the difference between the way their lives went, I guess. Meredith and Nina Watson. One stayed home to raise her children. The other followed a dream and travelled the world. But when their father falls ill, they find themselves together again, standing alongside their disapproving mother. And it's kind of, a story is unlike anything the sisters have heard. The mother tells us, on his deathbed, their father tells them a story. and it goes from there, basically. It says it begins with a story that is unlike anything the sisters have heard before, a captivating, mysterious love story that spans 65 years and moves from frozen war-torn Leningrad to modern-day Alaska. The vividly imagined tale brings these three women together in a way that none of them could have expected. Meredith and Nina finally learn the secret of their mother's past and uncover a truth so terrible it will shake the foundations of their family and change who they think they are. Yeah, that sounds really good. And again, from an author who I know I have loved books from before. And then the final one that I picked up. Why did I pick this one up? Because it was, choose a book which has a person's name in the title. So we went for the Song of Achilles, because Achilles, by Madeline Miller. This has been on my shelf for a while now, and I really want to get to it. It is meant to be heartbreaking. It is meant to be amazing. It is a romance. It's a queer romance between Patroclus and Achilles, Greek, so historical queer romance, I guess, and it is meant to be amazing. Everybody I've heard that's read it has said positive things about it, so I really do want to get to it at some point, but we will see. I have over-planned myself for November, absolutely over-planned myself for November, so we will see. We will see at the beginning of December how well I have done. So, if you have got to the end of the video, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for sticking with me. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of the books I've talked about. What did you think of them? Would you recommend any of the books would you recommend any other books based on the books that I'm planning to read? You know, things like that. If you suddenly go, oh, I really like Kate Moss books. Have you read these ones? Put it in the comments. Let's talk about books in the comments. And if you have got to this far, I want you to leave me an emoji. I'm trying to think. Do you know what? Leave me an emoji that is the most chaotic emoji you could find in terms of how chaotically I have over-planned for my November reading. And I will see you all at the beginning of December with my November wrap-up. We'll see how well I did. And also my fun plans for my December reading. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all again soon. Bye.